Hi, friends. David here from Above AVL. And let me tell you, one of the biggest things that can impact the mix in the house or the audience in any sort of situation, whether a band or a church or anything else, is going to be your monitor mix. Okay. And it's one of those things that, especially when people are new to audio, you might not spend a lot of time thinking about, right? Just kind of give them a little bit of everything or just give them themselves and you're off to the races. But a really good monitor mix honestly is going to really set the stage. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but you get into a rehearsal, you're having trouble, or a show, and you're having trouble getting the mix to kind of come together, right? You're just like, okay, these instruments, they're just not quite fitting the way they should. Okay, then some people ask for some things on stage, or you spend some time getting it right, and you get the monitor mixes dialed in a lot better. All of a sudden, your main mix comes together. Why? Well, there's going to be a couple big reasons. Probably the top reason is that when your musicians feel comfortable, when they can hear themselves, when they can hear everyone else, they're going to play their best. Only truly world-class musicians typically can play with like really terrible monitor mixes and make it sound good. Becoming an expert at monitors is only going to help your main mix, especially if you're mixing both in your situation, like a lot of non professional users are doing. Okay. So let's talk about what makes a monitor mix great. So monitors are going to be one or two things. They're either going to be physical stage wedges or they're going to be in-ear monitors. There's going to be some nuances between those, and we'll discuss those in a minute. But the basic gist is, say I just go and I just play my track, right? I'm just playing my music and I take everything at a even level and stick it in a monitor mix. What's that sound like? It kind of sounds like a whole bunch of mush. Is it kind of usable? Yeah, but it's not going to work well for somebody trying to hear themselves. And while everybody's going to have their preferences, here's some things you can do to start making way better monitor mixes. First things first is, let's say we're talking about our lead singer here. The first thing I'm going to do is take a pretty minimalist approach unless I know the person wants other things. So I'm in their mix and I'm just going to start pulling out things that straight up don't matter. So, like, I've got the main vocal, I've got his background vocals here. But then, all this other stuff like various keyboards, even the drums, I'm going to pull those all out. So we're starting with basically the person themselves at a higher level and everything else that might be key to them at a lower level. Okay. And that is usually going to be a great starting point for a monitor mix, because you have to remember, whether it's a actual physical monitor speaker or an in-ear monitor, it's a speaker. And the more things you put into a single speaker, the less clear they all get. So being minimalist, or at least starting there, is going to be a really good thing, making sure they can hear themselves the highest, making sure everything else is lower. Now, I just said don't put the drums in the monitor mix. Now, the drummer obviously sets the tone, sets the beat, sets the speed for the entire band. But on a lot of stages, especially if you're using stage monitors instead of in ears, you're going to be able to hear the drums just fine. If you're using in ears, you'll want to put drums in the person's monitor for sure so that they can begin to hear stuff. So, for example, here's our mix where it stands. And now we're going to add some drums as if it were an in-ear mix. And honestly, I just went with kick and snare because that's really going to give you all that you need in a lot of situations. So where do we go from there, right? If somebody wants something else, what do you do? In general, it's going to vary. If you're on a stage with live microphones and physical stage monitors, your key sources of feedback are typically going to be condenser microphones, especially if they are instruments that are not acoustically that loud by themselves. Okay. So if you're using those microphones, be careful how much of them you put into the monitor, particularly monitors right in front of that microphone. And take note of the polar pattern of the microphones itself and the pattern being put out by the speaker, and do your best to set them up so that the musician can hear the monitor in their ear, the monitor is pointing to them, but you're not throwing sound into that microphone, especially if it's a condenser. But this goes really for any microphone. It's going to help you with feedback. What else is crucial for a really good monitor mix? If you're on in-ears and you can go stereo, then you have the capability of panning, and you'll want to watch our panning video for more info on that. Simply put, if you have the ability to do stereo in-ears, pan, 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 pan. It will make your mix sound better all day long. Okay. If you're on acoustic monitors, if you're on, a stage monitor speaker, then just keep in mind what the people can hear from the house versus what is coming through their stage monitor. Don't always assume, in fact, walk up there, or if you're on in-ears, have a similar set of headphones and listen to their mix and hear what the musician actually hears. Because when you step into their spot and you start to hear what you hear, you can be like, oh, like I may not be sending a lot of a certain instrument, say electric guitar, to this monitor, but there's plenty on stage. I can hear it just fine. In that case, cut it out. It's going to make their mix more clear. It's going to help them to hear even better the things that they need to hear. If they do ask for something that you think they don't need in their mix, then add a little and talk to them about it. Ultimately, if they want something, you really should give it to them. But then if they come back and complain, say, for example, you have some organ sounds coming off some keyboards and you add them into the level they want, and then later they're complaining about hearing themselves clearly enough. That's when you sit down, have the discussion, maybe bring a tablet up on stage and start to experiment. Go, hey, if I add the organs back in, it makes everything really thick and hard to hear yourself. Can we reduce that level and work with them on that? Monitor mixing honestly does not have to be that difficult, but as I said in the intro, when you get your monitor mix right and you get the right sources to each musician, don't assume that they need anything, just give them themselves, give them the other instruments that they'll need to coordinate and play directly with, give them whoever's leading, and then beyond that, try not to give them too much. That's honestly the biggest thing that we see in monitor mixing is, especially if people are on ears, but even stage monitors, you'll see where just somebody's gone ahead and everything is in the monitor at some level, right? Just everything's in there. And the problems that often creates is it just makes it difficult to hear the things you want to hear. Then you start pushing volume up to try to hear things more clearly, since most speakers are more clear at louder volumes until the point that they're compressing down at the top. But that's not neither good in a physical monitor situation or an in-ear situation. So we want to avoid that, make sure we're putting things at a reasonable level, not doing it overboard. And really the way to do that is to give them the things they need. Don't go overboard with everything else. One quick big tip that we do have for in-ear mixes, we see this a lot, especially with churches, is if you have the ability, and either if your musicians are mixing their own mix, or if you are mixing it for them, for less experienced musicians, sometimes the best thing to do, especially on like an Aviom or a P16 system or any of those that are personal monitor mixer, is give them the left and right house mix, okay, on as an option to add to their in-ears. Because a lot of musicians can just take that for in-ears, left and just take the house mix, take themselves, and they'll be happy as a clam all day long. And as you adjust things and make the mix more clear in the house, it's only going to make their mix more clear without any extra work for you. So thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you here at Learn Stage Audio. If you haven't already, subscribed to our channel. We appreciate that. We're trying to grow this thing. And when you need audio gear or video or lighting, Above AVL is your place. We would love to help you get everything you need into your hands and help you get the right stuff at your personalized price. If that sounds good, we'll see you over at Above AVL. You can request a quote anytime, email us, ask questions. We're here to help. We're here to be your advocates and help you find the best stuff for your needs and be your partner for decades to come. If that sounds good, we'll see you guys there. Thanks.